And welcome, Raising Your Game Today. I'm David Levin. This is our Friday episode, so we're talking about the inner game of life. Tuesdays are for the middle game of sports and competition. Fridays are for the rest of our lives. So how are you this week? I hope you're doing well. It's funny, I want to say I hope you're feeling good, but that seems so unlikely with all that's going on. I can't quite bring myself to say it. It's a sad comment. Had some really great news this week with the Wisconsin election. I'll talk about that more in a bit, but that felt good, right? A rare moment of hope and even strength. But the bad news keeps coming too, so we're hanging in there. Things are pretty good here. Mixed weather, some beautiful days, some nasty days. Not much of note this week, otherwise, around these parts. But plenty to talk about. As always, Trump's tariffs, the huge mess with those. The big win in Wisconsin, that was fantastic. The continuing long list of terrible things Trump has been up to. A great exercise to lift our spirits among all this, our challenge of the week, and some new and updated recommendations. All right, we'll start with ups and downs. So what gave me a lift this week and what things were pulling me down? One nice up. We had one day, got to like 78 degrees. It was so beautiful. I had the scooter out and I took Margaret for a ride for the first time. It can carry two people plus the crate on the back for groceries, so we took her to the store. And it was lovely. You can really tell when there are two people on there. It's working a lot harder, but still great. Super fun to do that together. I imagine she'll start riding it by herself this summer, though hopefully not too much, because, it's mine. But that was lovely. I had a house project this week. The threshold on the floor between our kitchen and the mudroom had cracked a couple weeks ago and needed to be replaced. Small project, but just shocking how satisfying it was. It felt so great to get the new one in place and have it look so good. It does look very good. Honestly, I could be super happy doing that kind of work all the time. I really could. I just love it. Put down some vocals on one of the new songs I'm working on. Ended up quite happy with that too. It really is a form of sculpture. You add some pieces here and there, you step back, give it a listen, change things around a bit. It feels like you're working sort of a 3D audio space. At some point, it all comes together, hopefully. And that is pretty satisfying, I must say. Happy with that. This was really nice. Our daughter, I think I mentioned, has started doing some tutoring the past month or so. She's working with a 6th grade girl from her school. I asked her how things were going after her latest session, what she's heard from the mom, and it was so great. The report is that the girl looks forward to their sessions. She's enjoying them. She's starting to feel like she can actually learn things if she works on them, which is new for her. That blew me away. Just imagine the difference that'll make for her. And doubly great, right? Great for her, the student, but also for Frances. What a feeling to be helping someone in such a profound way. I know she's feeling very good about that, as she should be. So that was a great lift for me as well. Another fun little one. Margaret took a day trip up to Minneapolis to get together with some friends this week. They went to a bookstore that's owned by the author Louise Erdrich. Birch Bark Books is the name of the store. Louise is a Native American, so the store features other Native American authors and Native culture, among other things. And Margaret brought me home a gift of a sticker that says Skoden, Skoden, Skoden. What does that mean, you ask? It comes from one of our all-time favorite shows. I know I talked about this before, Reservation Dogs. It's on Hulu. It's about a group of teenagers who live on the reservation in Oklahoma, I think. Really one of the best shows we've ever seen, for real. But Skoden is one of those things they would say to each other. It's short for, let's go then. Skoden. Sort of like squeat for let's go eat when we were kids. So she got me this Skoden sticker. I'm not a sticker guy, as you can imagine. I like my possessions nice and neat and tidy. But that sticker went right on my water bottle, and it'll make me happy for as long as it lasts on there. I loved that. Last item, sort of both up and down. We decided to not sell our Tesla after all. We had it listed, I think I mentioned, had one guy take a good look at it. But the more we thought about it, we thought we love the car. It's going to be a hassle to get a new one, plus a lot of new debt, whereas this one's going to be paid off fairly soon. The only reason to sell it is the social discomfort of owning it. But we decided, all things considered, we could live with that. I mean, it's ridiculous for anyone to associate owning the car with supporting Elon and what he's doing. But some of that feeling is still there too, for sure. So a bit of both. Happy to be keeping it. Still a little uncomfortable to have it. Speaking of the Tesla, needed to get a new windshield for it. Developed this weird crack all along the lower edge, but below the visible area. Took it to the glass shop here. They put in a new one, but there was something wrong with it. It had a weird distortion along the bottom edge. Some others kind of more right in the middle of the sight line. Didn't look that clear, like we'd had it a week only, and it already didn't look new to me. So I take it back to the shop. They agree it's not right, and they say the best way to fix it, the reliable way to fix it, is to get an OEM windshield, meaning like a new one, directly from Tesla. But of course, insurance companies won't pay for original equipment like that if there's a cheaper option available. So a Tesla windshield is going to cost almost double to us what this one did. Now, they're happy to replace this one for free with another similar unit. They were fine with all that. But this is already the third one they've got from that company. The first two they sent back for obvious flaws. Not super confident in it'll be that much better. And they're the only supplier available. So I'm thinking we're sort of screwed. But I call our insurance company, USAA, and they say, no problem, we'll cover the Tesla unit. That was a nice surprise. And when do you get a good surprise from your insurance company, right? USAA, though, has always been just the best. The only bad thing I can say about them is that I can't recommend them because not everyone can sign up with them. They're only available for basically military families. Margaret, when she was working for the Indian Health Service, when we lived in Zuni, over 20 years ago, was technically in a branch of the military at the time. So we got into USAA then, and I've been lucky to have them ever since. Been over 20 years now. Anyway, that was very nice too. For my downs, the scale with trying to lose this weight is still just killing me. I mean, it's crazy. It's just not consistently coming down. And it's such a mind game because I know it is at one level. I can tell I'm losing weight around my waist. I can just feel it, though maybe still not as fast as I'd like. But we take the numbers so seriously, like they're the last word, And when they aren't going down or aren't staying down, you just lose your mind, or at least I do. I'm reminded, Tim Ferriss, the self-improvement author, way back said, don't go by the scale. Measure yourself at different points around your body and go by that. I probably should have done that because this is pretty frustrating. Also, we've had some really miserable weather, cold, drizzly, super windy, which is the worst. I would never make it in a place like Chicago or anywhere where it was windy all the time. One surprising down, I had a bad night of pickleball last night. When does that ever happen? I always have fun at pickleball, even when I lose. Like last week, for example, lost all 3 games, still had a good time. But last night, for some reason, I just played terribly. It was so bad that it actually took the fun out of it. I can only remember one other time that's happened in the year and, a quarter I've been playing. I don't know what it was. Just physically, it wasn't working. My reactions were slow. My touch was off. Everything was going out or into the net. It was just wild. And it wasn't a mental game thing at all. I just couldn't play, and it was not much fun. I actually came home in a worse mood than I left. That never happens. Really, though, it's fascinating to think about. I imagine it's true for all kinds of athletes. There are just some days when your body is not working right, and there's nothing you can do about it. You just have to get over it and move on. And that then actually becomes the real work, to not let it become a bigger thing than it is, right? Just move on, forget about it, stop thinking about it. When your brain keeps bringing it up, get right back in there, full strength, full confidence. That's actually a much harder challenge. And one big reason mental game training is so important, so you can learn the mental skills to do that, to not let upsets throw you off your game over time. Anyway, those are ups and downs for this week. Next up, top stories. The big story, of course, this week is Trump's crazy-ass tariffs. You almost don't know what to say about this. I'm writing this Thursday morning, April 3rd. I think a lot of people thought he might call him off again at the last minute like he has the other times. But no, he came out so proud of himself. A day of liberation. My God, there truly is something wrong with this guy. And of course, the immediate reaction was a total nightmare. Markets tanked. Big layoffs were announced right away, like today. thousands of manufacturing jobs. Foreign countries reacted. Check this out. China, Japan, and South Korea announced they would work together to oppose the tariffs. Those countries hate each other. They barely talk to each other normally. It's been like that since World War II. Somehow, we have driven them together against us. That's not going to be good. China and Brazil have announced they'll stop doing, commerce in dollars. They'll use the Chinese currency instead. I mentioned that before. As soon as the world stops using dollars as the default currency, we are in deep trouble. It's just remarkable to see how much damage this guy Trump can do in such a short amount of time. You just can't get your head around it. It's a real talent. No one who understands economics wants this. No one thinks it's a good idea. It's like Brexit, but 1,000,000 times more damaging and worldwide. We truly do have a rogue, crazy king, and we're just beginning to see how far down he can take us. There's so many things to say about these tariffs. My favorites are around how dumb and arbitrary and poorly thought out they are. We put tariffs on 2 islands that have no humans on them, just penguins. Seriously, just penguins. I'm seeing a lot of great memes and funny stuff around that. We put tariffs on a place called Diego Garcia. It's an island in the Indian Ocean that we partially own already. We have a big military base there. We're tariffing ourselves. These guys are just so inept and bungling. But the big point, I think, at least what I'm hearing, is that we shouldn't be thinking about these as tariffs, meaning as some sort of economic policy, because they simply don't make any sense economically. What they're really about is another way for Trump to exert power, like he was a king, and to basically extort everybody else. The tariffs are threats hanging over companies and countries that he can impose and take away at any time. So to get out from under them, you need to come to him and give him things he wants. That is real power. It's also apparently the kind of capricious use of power that led to the Revolutionary War. Unfair, corrupt, abusive taxes from the king. So here we are again, our demented leader pulling down the whole system, the whole world order, in a bid to control it for his own benefit. Even if he reverses course, by the time this comes out and removes all the tariffs, a massive amount of damage has already been done. The alliances against us, the uncertainty in the markets and the business world in general, those will be with us as long as Trump is in charge, because he's not going to change, right? He's been saying this forever. He seems to really believe it's a good thing. He's a mad king, and we are all paying the price. I saw a comment this morning. This is how empires fall. I've been saying that for a while. And remember, empires don't come back. When they fall forever. Best case scenario, it'll take generations for the world to trust us in the same way again. One Trump term you could forgive, right? Electing him again means we all own all of this. I saw a hilarious Onion post this morning, the satirical news source, The Onion. Quote, FBI uncovers al-Qaeda plot to just sit back and enjoy collapse of the United States. End quote. That about sums it up, right? We're destroying ourselves from within. And that's nowhere near all the evidence of it. This week, Trump doubled down again on the idea of running for a 3rd term. I honestly think this really is mostly trolling to get us off the Signalgate story. But still, it's a direct conflict with the Constitution, just right on its face. And the president is sworn to uphold the Constitution, right? These statements are a clear dereliction of duty, but he's just doing it. Speaking of Signalgate, turns out Walz, his national security advisor, has convened many more secure chats on Signal, which is against policy, possibly illegal, super dumb for security. And even though his own people were warning against it, there was a bulletin sent out to the whole intelligence community. Don't use Signal for secure communications. He's doing it. No big surprise, of course. We expected that. Still a huge deal, but no investigation. When Joe Biden discovered he had classified documents in his residence, his own Justice Department created a special counsel to investigate him. That was nothing compared to the security breach of this. Cannot even compare the two. But this administration is doing nothing. Attorney General Pam Bondi basically said, yeah, no, we're not investigating that. The real question is, what did Hillary do? First of all, how long ago was that? Come on. But what's that got to do with this, right? What do you think your job is? It's just pure corruption and double standards. No accountability for anyone in his circle. They canceled union contracts for government workers, just canceled their rights to collective bargaining because they were supposedly resisting his agenda. Again, almost certainly illegal, but also, are we not allowed to resist the president's agenda? Of course we are, but not a king's agenda. The law firms caving to his threats, that's so dangerous and damaging, really deeply troubling. There was an executive order to, quote, restore sanity to American history at the Smithsonian Institution, end quote, meaning we're going to rewrite history the way we think it should be so that it makes us look better. There's no way Trump cares anything about history. He doesn't know anything about history. He just wants power over everything. RFK Jr. forced out top scientists at the NIH this week. Really big top people, huge hits on science and healthcare. Michael Osterholm, famous epidemiologist from Minnesota, by the way, said this will go down as one of the darkest days in modern scientific history. These are going to be huge losses to the research and public health community. These scientists, they're not going to stop doing their work. They'll just go somewhere else, right? It'll take a while, it'll be disrupted, but they'll go somewhere else. Other countries and companies will be happy to have them, and there'll be no reason for them to come back. The CDC killed a report that suggested people get measles vaccinations as the outbreak continues to grow. 398 of 400 cases on unvaccinated people, but heaven forbid we would actually tell people maybe they should get vaccinations. Texas doctors, I just saw this today, they're seeing vitamin A overdoses in children because guess why? RFK suggested vitamin A was an effective treatment for measles. They're taking us backwards. Trump keeps insisting he will get Greenland one way or another. Again, he is threatening a NATO ally. How is that going to go? Currently, recent polling in Europe, no country in Europe has more than half the people with a positive view of the United States. No country in Europe sees us positively right now. And we're only 10 weeks in. Is this going to improve over the next 4 years? Oh, I doubt that. And the corruption. Trump announced this week he was selling a bunch of Trump media stock. I think he promised not to do that. Never mind that. But also, presidents aren't supposed to do business while in office, right? They're supposed to put everything in a blind trust. He didn't care. Right out in the open. He pardoned two fairly high-level corporate criminals this week. Again, first of all, that's not how pardons are supposed to work, right? They happen at the end of the term usually. There are all these procedures to show, people are justified in getting them. Never mind all that. He just pardons whoever he wants, whenever he wants. So one of them was the CEO of Nikola Motors. They were supposedly putting out, I think, hydrogen-powered trucks maybe. He was convicted of defrauding investors and customers, which he absolutely did. But guess what? Also a big Trump supporter. And his lawyer, coincidentally, was the brother of Pam Bondi, our Attorney General. So he got a pardon. Trump even said it was because he was a supporter. Where's the rule of law? Trump fired a prosecutor in LA because he was going after another supporter, CEO of a burger chain. I don't remember the name. That's where we are now. Our entire system being taken down from within by our mad king and his corrupt, spineless Republican co-conspirators. The good news is that the resistance gets stronger every day. We had a huge election win in Wisconsin. I'm sure you heard about it, and it really was epically important. I hadn't really clicked into the full picture of it until Election Day, but when I thought about what would happen if Elon's money had won this election, it was just enormous. Every Republican would live in fear, and rightfully so. The whole Trump-Elon destruction machine would just continue unabated. But now, Republicans everywhere are terrified of what's coming, and rightly so. The shift in Wisconsin from Republicans to Democrats was just enormous, and in a very short time. The race was called within an hour of polls closing. It wasn't even close. In Florida, the candidates there still won, but by 20 points less than last time. That's how quickly things have changed, just the last few months since the last election. People are starting to stand up. The filibuster by Cory Booker, maybe you heard about that? That was surprisingly effective and impressive. He didn't eat or drink for a couple days, I read before doing this, so he wouldn't have to go to the bathroom. And he didn't. For 25 hours, he stood there and he spoke. Beautiful irony, by the way. He broke the record set by Strom Thurmond in the 60s, maybe, who did it to oppose civil rights reforms. So a black man, 60 years later, breaks his record for the longest filibuster. But that was really powerful. It got a lot of attention. It's exactly the kind of thing people have been looking for from Democrats, right? Just stand up, do something to resist. That was really great. And in our little corner of the world, Margaret and I are going to the big hands-off protest this weekend. If you hear this in time, hopefully you can join one too. It's going to be a nationwide protest. I'll put a link in the notes. I expect that'll be a big showing as well. So that is top stories this week. Big happenings, interesting times. And by the way, if you do enjoy these segments, please do give us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. It's a big help, for real, in reaching new listeners. So appreciate that very much. All right, next up, Inner Game Gold. Last week we talked about the Stoic saying, memento mori, remember that you die, because keeping that truth, the reality of that in mind is so helpful in living fully while we're here. This week it's time again for a little gratitude exercise. So I'm reading a new book where the main character, something very bad happened to him 20 years ago. He was on vacation in Europe in college, met a woman, they connected, spent time together. One morning, he wakes up after a night of heavy partying. He has a bloody knife in his hand, and his girlfriend is dead next to him on the bed. So about the worst thing you can imagine, right? He runs, lives with his guilt for 20 years. You can imagine every day he wishes that it wasn't true, that he can go back to his old life. It never happened. And by the way, in the book, 20 years later, she shows up alive, not dead after all, and the story goes from there. But this is a perfect example of Sam Harris's gratitude exercise, if you remember. The idea he presents is you imagine something terrible has happened, something so bad you'd give anything to get back to your life before, and then you realize that's the life you have right now. And then just let that deep feeling of relief and gratitude and joy wash over your feelings about your current life. I love that exercise. It's so easy to make those feelings real and actually change your perspective on where things are for you. In other words, it works. So that's our Inner Game Gold for this week, the Sam Harris gratitude exercise. And by the way, Sam Harris is a great resource for your inner game in general. His app, Waking Up, is probably the best one out there for a mindfulness-based approach to well-being and mental health. It's not just a meditation app. It's a deep library of material on all kinds of things related to mindfulness and the benefits of that in our lives. Also free if you can't afford it. I believe that's still true. Anyway, check that out if you could use something like that. All right, that's Inner Game Gold. Next up, our challenge of the week. Let's spend some time this week with this Sam Harris gratitude exercise. So the exercise itself is one thing, and you can do that pretty much any time. It just takes a few moments of visualization. Just imagine, again, something terrible happened. You'd give anything to get back to before it happened. Sam's version was that he had accidentally hit someone with his car and killed them, and the guilt of that, the disruption of his life that would have followed. You can come up with your own, hopefully not too gruesome. And then imagine that you were able to go back to what happened and then sit with the feeling of relief and gratitude for your current life. But to get the most out of it, I would go into more detail with what you're grateful for in your current life. Just run through everything you can think of, your physical health, your comfortable home, your functioning car if you have one, your relationships with your family, friends, your work. I mean, the list really never ends, potentially. But stop on each one for a moment and really be thankful for it. Gratitude is one of the most powerful mental health emotions. It really fixes a lot of worries and problems. And the more real you can make the feeling, the more it lifts your burdens. So set yourself a challenge 2 or 3 times this week. Do a pretty deep gratitude exercise. I think you will really love what this does for you. All right, that's our challenge this week, the Sam Harris gratitude exercise. Extra credit for checking out his Waking Up app if that sounds like something that would be helpful. Also, of course, our Raise Your Inner Game material is an option as well. They complement each other very well. I actually reference Sam and his work in my book. And there's no time like the present to strengthen your inner game, that's for sure. And you can learn about all that at raiseyourinnergame.com. All right, next up, highly recommended. I mentioned the John Sandford book last week, Fields of Prey. Actually, I think it was Lethal Prey. That was a mistake. That's his newest book. Fields of Prey was a while ago. Finished it. Thought it was great. One warning, though. It got pretty disturbing with sexual violence. He doesn't normally have that level of brutality in his books. It was a bit much for me, honestly. I would not want to recommend that to anyone without that warning. So well done. Great writing as always, but beware of that. Started the new book I mentioned with the guy who did but didn't really kill his girlfriend. Book is called Nobody's Fool by Harlan Coben. Another great writer. Pulls you in right away. Still the same kind of genre of typically crime mysteries, but excellent always. Early with this one, but quite good so far. I finished season 3 of Reacher at Amazon Prime Video. No real surprises there. You see it coming. It's typical Reacher, but still fun enough. A moderate recommendation for that. Finally got around to the series finale of Better Call Saul. I was putting that off. I almost forgot. I hadn't watched it yet, but I got to it. And I will just say again, one of my all-time favorite shows. Not a happy show by any means, but not super dark either. Just so well done, well conceived, well acted, smart, funny, weird, extremely entertaining. The last few episodes of season 3 were getting pretty depressing, honestly, but the finale was great, very satisfying. Did not see it coming. Just a great conclusion, which is also impressive on its own, right? 6 seasons, that's a long arc. To wrap it all up in a way that satisfies like that, it's just great work. So one last opportunity to praise that excellent show, Better Call Saul. We've started a new one. We're always on the lookout for a show we can watch together. Me and Margaret and Francis, our 16-year-old, got a new one. It's called The Residence on Netflix. It's a murder mystery in the classic sort of Agatha Christie model, right? This brilliant but quirky detective, many suspects, all in the same building. In this case, it's the White House residence. So far, it's fun, smart, funny. We're a couple of episodes in is all, but enjoying that quite a bit. It also occurred to me how much our viewing habits have changed. We almost never see a movie anymore. Partly, I suppose, because we don't have a movie theater here anymore, but more because we just love long-form television. I think I'm starting to be wired sort of against movies. On the one hand, I don't like it when they get so long, right? Even 2 hours feels like a pretty long time for me. It's a big time commitment. At the same time, I'm also like, what can you get in just 2 hours, right? I want 6 or 8 or 10 to really get into it and explore all the characters and all that. And you can only do that in series TV. So that's just fascinating, the change there. It's a pretty big change. And it's happened so slowly, we've hardly even noticed. Anyway, probably a tough time to be in the movie business, but the golden age of television, for sure. All right, that's highly recommended, and that's it for this week's show. Thank you again, as always. Have a great week. Let me know any questions. Otherwise, keep up the good work. I will see you next week.